How does that show your commitment to solving the housing crisis?
Well, we're committed to getting more houses built. We're also committed to making Kāinga Ora, the State House builder, a lot more efficient. And we're proud that we've found efficiencies there that will mean that those savings are available for the future.
$655 million of those efficiencies are in the asset maintenance program. Sir Bill English, for the English review, said those are unlikely to be achieved. Is that good practice? Do you think you're actually going to be able to achieve those given this view?
Well, I sat down with the acting chair of Kāinga Ora and asked him whether he thought those savings were deliverable, and he assured me he thought they were. It's not about stopping maintaining homes, it's about doing so more efficiently. Obviously, Kāinga Ora are big procurers of maintenance services, and they have the opportunity to organise themselves better so that they can deliver that with more value for money. And look, this is no different from what any construction firm is doing in the current environment, which is looking across its contracts, working out how it can deliver better value for money, be more efficient. And I think New Zealanders have a right to expect that from their state house builder too. Well, I sat down, as I said, with the acting chair of Kāinga Ora and asked whether he believed those savings were deliverable, and he believed they were.
These promised cancer drugs that haven't come through in this budget, can you give us a bit firmer about when people will actually learn when they will become available? Will it be this year?
As I've said, yes.
So will the drugs actually become available before the next budget?
What we've said is that we are determined to deliver on our commitment to fund those additional cancer treatments, and we will make announcements about that shortly.
Just on the cancer policy document, the funding clearly states this year. Is that not a broken promise?
No, because we're going to deliver on those drugs. As we've outlined, the additional funding that we had to put into Pharmac was needed, it turned out, just to stand still. In order to keep essential medicines funded, we had to put in hundreds of millions of dollars more than we had thought we would have to prior to the election. And I think what demonstrates that is if you go and look at Labour's fiscal plan prior to the election, they weren't campaigning on additional $1.8 billion. No political party was. But we prioritised finding that funding because we weren't prepared to see essential life-saving medicines delisted. That was our first priority. We remain committed to funding those additional cancer drugs.
But people want certainty. Can you give them a time frame? Is it going to be days, months, years?
I can give them certainty that we will be making that announcement shortly.
Are you going to need to update that list? I saw one cancer expert saying that medicines on there are about 3 years out of date. So blood cancer drugs aren't in there. Are you going to have to look at that as well?
Well, as we say, we are working through that with our advisors. There is some complexity to both how those medicines are approved, how they are procured, and the order in which that happens.
Would you look to possibly expand the list of your drugs? Would you have a sort of sense of what the funding that you would have to use?
Well, our first priority is to deliver on the commitments we've made.
Have you got in contact at all with any of the people who have gone public about their having to find their own money for these cancer drugs? In Canterbury, we've got Vicky Hudson-Craig raising $5,000 a month. Have you or your office been in touch or reached out to any of those people?
Well, look, I appreciate that in the case of individuals like her, that they want to see those medicines funded. We understand that. That's why we campaigned on the commitment to fund those drugs, and I note that there is no other political party that was prepared to make that commitment. We made that commitment, and we're going to deliver on it.
Minister, is it at the top of the cabinet agenda today?
It's something that senior ministers have already had significant conversations about over the past few months, and we continue to do so with urgency.
And is there any way you can override Pharmac without disrupting the whole system?
Yes, there are ways that we can do this, and we're working through the best way to do it.
Sorry, just back to housing. How many houses are going to be built as a result of this year's budget, social community housing?
We have committed to building an additional 1,500 social homes through our commitment to community housing providers. We continue to believe that our commitment to building new roads and new infrastructure across the country will also allow more housing development to happen in the private sector. It's worth noting that the vast majority of homes that are built in New Zealand are built by private developers. So we need them to have the confidence to keep building those homes. That's about getting inflation and interest rates down. That's about having a well-managed economy, good regulations. Those are all things that are high on our agenda.
But the number that you're building is the same as what Labour was promising.
We have in our budget committed additional funds to ensure that 1,500 more homes are delivered.
So besides taking money from the first home buyers grant, where's the money in this year's budget to do social?
We have put additional funding in to fund 1,500 more homes to be delivered by community housing providers. That's providers like Habitat for Humanity, the Salvation Army and others. I appreciate this is a different approach from the outgoing government, which chose to fund Kāinga Ora as its first port of call. We're not happy with Kāinga Ora's performance, so that's why we're ensuring that the funding is made available to effective community housing providers who do great work building homes and looking after vulnerable tenants.
The government has put aside $3.6 million in the budget. This is to do with the Nelson Tents Trust, and then that money is assigned to help appeal the Tents Trust, even though the decision's not out yet from the High Court. What is the government's approach with that? Are you expecting to continue to fight that case?
Look, I'm not going to comment on matters that are before the courts.
When National talks about families receiving $250 a fortnight in the end of July, is that misleading given that to receive that daycare subsidy, which is a large part of it, they have to keep invoices and then send it to IRD for the money to appear in their bank accounts 3 months later? It's not going to relieve the immediate pressure, is it?
Obviously, from the 1st of July, people will become eligible for that additional childcare payment. You're right, the payment won't go into their account until October, but I do want all New Zealand families with childcare costs to know that you should look up that Family Boost policy because from the 1st of July, the costs that you incur are eligible for a refund if your family is earning less than $180,000 a year.
And there's no new funding for early childhood either in the budget?
Yes, there is. There is a funding uplift for early childhood education providers in the budget to their operational grants. There's also specific funding in there for Play Centre and for Kohanga Reo.
There was a question in the room about whether people in there actually needed the tax cuts they were given. Have you had that sentiment expressed elsewhere? Do you have a sense that there are some people who feel that would be better off going back into services or towards paying down debt?
Well, with all due respect to these incredible people in the room, it was a wealthier room today. And from the campaigning I've done and the work I've done around the country, the cost of living is biting very hard for many New Zealanders who are really struggling. And I know that tax relief will make a difference for lots of families who, when they're at the supermarket checkout aisle, are thinking about which vegetables to take off. And we actually want them to be in a position where they do have a few more dollars every week, a bit more money every pay packet. And I've no doubt that off the back of a cost of living crisis, tax relief is going to make a difference.
And you don't believe that could have been done in a more targeted way?
I think we've done a really good job of targeting tax relief at lower and middle income families. They are absolutely the ones who get the significant relief out of this budget, and that's appropriate because they're also the families that have faced the biggest increases in costs in recent times. Hey, thanks everyone.